Hello, everyone. Luis Concepcion here from Strategic Profit Line Trading, coming to you with the plan of the week for week number 23. As always, here's our disclosures. This content is for educational purposes only. I'm not providing any investment advice, nor am I a financial advisor. This is not tailored to any one individual. Past performance does not guarantee future results, and all investments involve risk. Here's our agenda. I'll cover the news, provide a market overview. Earnings has wound down. There's only 74 companies reporting this week. So not too many opportunities this week. So this could be a week to take off if you wanted to. However, more importantly, it's what's happening in the indices, and I'll cover that today. Here's our results for week 22. Provided 21 zones. We went 7-0. The reason SIAC is in parentheses is because it did work in options, but it did not work in stocks. So I just wanted to make that note. We have transitioned to strictly options. So that is why you can either say we're 7-0 this week or 7-1. No entries was 12, and there is nothing in progress. Here's our outlook for the week. Again, nobody reporting on Friday and not your typical company. So I did my best to provide you with the opportunities that I thought would hit this week and me. So went ahead and updated all the companies that hit on 22. As you can see on SIAC, I said did not work in stocks. However, the rest of our trades worked in options. And then that brings us to 68-14 on the year. All right, transitioning into our news, you can see on Monday, we don't have anything impacting the markets, nor on Tuesday. So the market may just be recovering from the sell-off we had on Friday. Nothing impactful until Wednesday. As you can see on Wednesday morning, before the market, we have a couple of CPI reports. So be mindful of that. For those of you trading futures and Forex, the Canadian dollar will have some volatility in the morning as well. So be mindful of that. Then moving on to Thursday, the euro will have some monetary policy statements being released pretty much before the market opens. So that may impact. So the euro and the dollar being impacted on Thursday could cause some volatility into the markets. So be interesting to see what the euro and the US dollar does based off these reports Thursday morning. So be mindful that that is happening on Thursday. British pound being affected Thursday evening, and then nothing on Friday at the moment. We have consumer sentiment, but as you can see, these look like I'm not sure if they're tentative yet, or they will change these folders to red. So be mindful of that on Friday. But again, no news on Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, the dollar and the euro are being affected, as well as on Thursday. And then that's going to do it for our news this week. All right, transitioning into our news. Um, Big thing that happened this week obviously was Friday. S&P 500 dropped about 2.5%, 3%. Nothing major here. We're pretty much just right back where we were on May 20th. So for those of you who are who was affected was uh, the semiconductors. AMD took a big hit. Micron took a big hit. Anything that was a microchip took a big hit. So all in all, pretty much just back where we were on 520. So be mindful of that. What I want to point out is there is a level right here, but this level has already been utilized. So if the market decides to settle, we might stay here about 7,300. However, utilize this level with caution. This 73.80 to 73.17. We've used this level on multiple occasions. So that is your aggressive level for the week, depending on what happens Monday morning at the open. We may just push through this and go for the 72.50. So gonna tell you to utilize that with caution, but I'm not gonna use it. We're gonna go here for the 72.59.10 to 71.70. And that's gonna be your level on the S&P 500 or the SPX. Now, here comes the NASDAQ. The reason I'm saying we're not going to utilize that level is because the NASDAQ is weaker. You can see we stopped right at our level on Friday. So it all determines, again, if we're going to have a recovery this week and go start heading a little bit higher. to close our gaps. So removing that level, this next level that I'm giving you is the 28,641.90 to 28,366.77. NASDAQ being a little bit weaker than the S&P 500. Now, this level, we've utilized it on multiple occasions as well. So if you want to be patient, the next level I have for you on the NASDAQ is going to be 27,835.79 to 27,485.99. That's going to do it for the NASDAQ right now. Gonna say this is supply for the NASDAQ, not for the S&P 500. So just understand that June is a down month historically to volatile month. Obviously, we've already seen volatility in the last 2 days. And for those of you who know how to place insurance on your portfolios, if and when we reach these levels again, that's going to be the time to insure your portfolios. So if you have questions or comments about that, feel free to contact me and we can discuss. Now, moving on to the Dow Jones or the DJX. You can see the DJX. We saw this on Friday. Most of our companies in the Dow held pretty well. So the Dow not as weak as the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ because they're not impacted by the semiconductors. With that being said, the next level I have for you is going to be at 497.16 to 492.30. I have already removed our previous level that we had here. And you can see we hit and that took off. Again, aggressive level for those of you who want to play it, 506.91 to 502.91. But because the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ are weaker and this level has already worked, I have already removed it and given you the next level. Again, 497.16 to 492.30. And unlike the S&P 500 and the Russell, there is no supply in the Dow Jones. So if you want, that's just a transition from growth to value that's happening right now. So on the rut being rut always doing its own thing. You can see that it's in the middle of nowhere. It tried to bounce a little bit on Friday, so there is a lower time frame level right here. I'm going to provide it to you for those of you who are more aggressive. You can see we bounced already from here. So 28.18 to 27.98. Again, waiting to see if the market's going to recover on Monday and Tuesday with no news. But with that being said, the rut has created a supply zone, that being 2,900 to 2,946, unlike the other three markets. Removing this and just keeping it on the macro level, 2721.44 to 2690.31 is going to be our demand, and 2900.75 to 2946.42. All right, now moving into our earnings for the week. Not a lot of companies, but I'm going to cover them. First company I have for you is going to be Fuel Cell Energy. No supply in this company. First demand level I have for you is at 12.14 to 9.59. Next is going to be Campbell Soups, ticker symbol CPV. On the demand side, 15.18 to 10.43. On the supply side, 25 even to 25.90. Matter of fact, let's fix this level and make it 24.65 to 26.44. Next company I have for you is going to be MPAA. On the demand side, 9.52 to 8.15. On the supply side, 12.82 to 14.22. Be mindful that this level has worked on 3 occasions already. Next company is going to be Mama, ticker symbol MAMA. No supply in this company. First demand zone I have for you is 11.88 to 10.98. Next is going to be Smucker's Jelly. On the demand side, 87.23 to 81.46 with a subsequent level at 78.16 to 73.16. Be mindful that this is a monthly zone. On the supply side, I don't have anything for you until 139.27 to 147.65. Next company I have for you is going to be Cracker Barrel. So for Cracker Barrel, I got you on the demand side at 22.13 to 15.24. On the supply side, 49.30 to 55.81. Next company is going to be Chewy. So for Chewy, 17.19 to 14.65 on the demand side. Supply all the way at 46.38 to 48.65. Next company I have for you is going to be Oracle. Oracle's been on a tear this week. They have a plus or minus of 30, if I'm not mistaken. That is subject to change. So 165.62 to 159.68. And then on the demand side, with a subsequent level at 127.15 to 120.56. A lot of demand levels below 127. So I'm just going to, given that they only have a plus or minus of 30, highly doubtful we get to the 127 level, but 127.15 to 120.56. More aggressive level here is going to be 165.62 to 159.68. On the supply side, 256.81 to 266.78. Next company I have for you is ticker symbol NAVN. On the demand side, 13.25 to 11.51. No supply as they just hit a high here of 23.53 this past week. Then last company I have for you is going to be Restoration Hardware. They do have a plus or minus of 20. This is a monthly zone as well. This 143.26 to 72.83 if you want to look at it on your monthly charts. So even if they drop $20, it will keep us in this zone. With that being said, let me give you some zones within the zone, which is going to be 123.35 to 113.51. For those of you who know how to capitalize on options, feel free to use that level. Then on the supply side, 184.34 to 195.53. It's going to do it for me in the charts this week. If you're not doing so already, feel free to follow me on social media. Check out the website. Just revamped our new website. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to email me. And if there's anything I can do for you, feel free to DM me. And as always, till next time, happy trading.